There comes a pivotal moment in our lives when we, as parents, notice a shift in our relationships with our children. We spend years nurturing them, offering wisdom, and making countless sacrifices, only to one day find that something has changed. They might dismiss your insights, overlook your suggestions, or even make you feel like a burden. It stings deeply. If you find that your children no longer regard you with the respect you deserve, feelings of frustration and disappointment can follow. You might be tempted to remind them of all you've done, the years spent prioritizing their needs. But let me be candid. Fury and reminders won't mend the bonds. Rather than battling it out, a more gentle approach can subtly but powerfully restore the respect you've lost. Today, I'm sharing 6 steps you can take when your children overlook you. These aren't mere tricks. These are actionable shifts in your demeanor that could redefine their perspective on your role in their lives. Take a moment now as this journey unfolds, and you might find yourself rediscovering your rightful place of honor and regard in their lives. Let's delve in. Action 1. Forge your own approval. A surprisingly challenging yet common struggle for aging parents is the elusive pursuit of their children's validation. From subtle compromises to grand adjustments, this quest is often marked by the steady erosion of one's identity and self-regard. Imagine this. You're altering your pattern of daily living and tweaking your behavior to better match your grown children's expectations. You bend to accommodate their every wish, whether it's changing your weekend plans at the last moment or rearranging your cherished routines. Every time you say yes when your instinct tells you it might be wiser to say no, you're setting the stage for them to take you for granted. Why so? Because you are teaching them that your needs and preferences are always secondary to theirs. Perhaps in your heart, you're really nurturing the hope that these sacrifices will make them appreciate you more. Here enters the hard truth. Catered comforts don't foster respect. It's genuine self-assurance and individuality that win esteem. Consider the cautionary tale of Sarah, a once independent woman who ran her own business and made these same character-morphing missteps as she aged. She was a vortex of willpower and remarkable decision-making prowess in her prime. However, as she aged, she noticed a shift and unnoticeably fell for the trap that she must conform to her children's every whim to maintain peace and unity in the family. Sarah altered her plans, gave up her favorite pastimes to align with her children's schedules, actively suppressed her honest but safe-to-ignore opinions, and even overlooked the unfavorable tones her children used while conversing. Regrettably, the truth of this scenario was far from her initial expectations. Instead of serving her purpose of uniting the family better, Sarah's over-accommodation led to her forfeiture of her individuality, voice, and consequently, her deserved respect. So, if you find yourself not receiving the respect you deserve from your own children, consider reflecting on your current actions. Is there a possibility that you have been inadvertently putting your self-respect on the back burner? Remember, your first approach to restore your due respect isn't to assertively demand it, but rather to subtly indicate that you no longer act as a pillar needing their validation. Establish boundaries. Do not shy away from saying what you truly believe in, even if they dislike it initially. This is the way to show them that you don't need their validation to lead a fulfilling life. This is how you kickstart the rich journey to self-respect. Simultaneously, this process works as a mirror for your young ones, often catalyzing a shift in how they perceive and understand you, one that eventually nurtures respect in return. In essence, embracing your own approval, rather than seeking your child's, is a potent first step in reclaiming their respect. And truth to be told, it's not as difficult as it sounds. It starts with acknowledging and respecting your inclinations. Remember, respect and love from others blossom naturally when you start experiencing these feelings for yourself. Action 2. Guide through conduct, not conflict. When humor turns to scorn, when your earnest viewpoints are brushed off like a speck of dust, or when you're spoken to dismissively, it's only natural to feel a sting of hurt. The instinctual response might be to let your experiences and sacrifices speak volumes, hoping that that knowledge would open their eyes to their disrespectful behavior. However, stern rebukes or reminders often lead to heated exchanges, more often deepening the chasm of misunderstanding rather than bridging it. Recall the first rule of gaining respect? It revolves around self-respect. And that's where our instinct, driven by hurt and a sense of obligation, fails us. Because when we respond to disrespect with heated rebuke, we unwittingly offer them a weapon. They start viewing these exchanges as ways to trigger you, to destabilize your calm. Have you ever met a person who seems to exude a magnetic field of respect? Someone who commands dignity without needing to assert it? They radiate an aura of composed respect without having to demand it from their onlookers. Do note that I use the word radiate, not demand. This is your second lesson in winning the lost respect from your children. Let's consider Tom, an ex-principal of years who never had to ask for validation. His word was the law. Students perceived him as a mentor, a guide, a figure of strength without him having to demand any of it. When words left his lips, a hush fell in the corridors, the classrooms. But at home, his words with his grown kids met an unexpectedly different reception. They began to dismiss his inputs and worse, often spoke down to him, despite his illustrious history. Initially, Tom fell back on his decades of disciplinary expertise and countered with arguments, trying to bring back the respect he felt he deserved, which seemed an appropriate course for someone in his shoes. However, he soon realized that his approach only deepened the rift between him and his children, rather than recalibrating their respect for him. It was then that he decided to take the road less traveled, a road where he would lead by maintaining his conduct rather than hurtful conflicts. The wisdom he carried was not meant to be a justification that needed defending at every turn. Instead, he chose to engage in active and considerate listening, giving ample space for his children to express themselves. Tom decided to wear an armor of respect without fighting the verbal battles he was pulled into. He kept his self-regard unwavering and chose to radiate respect in the face of disrespect. His children soon began to note a change, a shift in how their father was handling his interactions. With no outbursts to deal with, they observed a composed figure, a man of wisdom who didn't feel the need to have the final say, a man of respect who was confident enough not to guard his dignity. They couldn't help but respond with a newfound respect. 1. So when the bell to battle rings, resist the urge to rush to the battleground. Instead, demonstrate dignity in times of adversity and unrest. Speak less and listen more. Show them what an unwavering, respectful person looks and behaves like. Let your silent confidence, your strength in the storm, challenge their assumptions about you, thus creating a space for newfound respect to grow naturally. And when that respect roots, it aids in creating a stronger bond that's capable of weathering the numerous unpredictable storms life tosses your way. Action 3. Anchor your contentment elsewhere. Me. Aging graciously often comes with a challenging realization that you cannot steer your boat of emotional well-being depending on your children's wins. That's a dangerous voyage fraught with storms of disappointments. You may love them more than anything in this world, and your heart may yearn for them to reciprocate in a similar manner, honor you, and see the worth you bring into their lives. However, the unwritten rule of human behavior unfolds thusly. The moment they sense that you need them to fill you, to complete you, They feel overwhelmed, not privileged. The balance of power in the relationship subtly shifts. Emotional dependency morphs into a suffocating bondage that they struggle against. Your desire for their validation, affection, or companionship begins to weigh heavy on them. It's like a constant reminder of an obligation that they must fulfill. In this tug-of-war between your hopes and their perceived burden, the dynamics of the relationship changes significantly, and often not for the better. Their respect for you dwindles. They might begin to pull away emotionally, develop impatience with your expectations, or show unwarranted irritation. Helen, a compassionate mother who had given her soul and soil to nurture her children, found herself in this exact predicament. As her nest emptied and her children spread their wings to explore their own lives, she found her emotional well turning dry. She found herself waiting for the phone to ring, hoping that they would call. When they didn't in the frequency she expected, she bridged the gap and called them, often too frequently. It seemed harmless, didn't it? Indeed, it was, but only from her perspective. Her desperate attempts to bridge the emotional gap appeared to them as dependency. Her calls became reminders for them, not of love, but of her expectation. They began to see these interactions with their loving mother as a duty, an obligation that they come to dread bit by bit. However, experience is the curve that corrects our paths. Helen, despite the initial heartache, changed her ways. She realized she needed to become the anchor of her own well-being. So she stopped playing the waiting game that she had been losing. She stopped being the one to always initiate conversations. Now brace yourself, because this transformative part of this tale is the crux of Action 3. Helen began to steer her energies into rediscovering herself. No longer a doting mother tirelessly working to support her children, she had freedom that had long been forgotten. Her reading lists came alive. She found companionship in her old friends. She even joined a dance class, which was a suppressed dream to begin with. And something magical began to happen. Her children started calling her more frequently. They sensed her presence even in her missing and found the renewed Helen intoxicatingly inspiring. This induced deeper appreciation of her presence, not because it was an expectation waiting to be fulfilled, but because they felt the warmth and earnestness in it. This is your third key to unraveling respect. Independence induces respect. By showcasing that you can stand strong independently, emotionally satisfied by your own life, you exude an aura of stability, strength, and tranquility. Preferences shift in this new light. No longer do they sense a sensation of duty. Instead, they feel pulled by your strength, your aura. Watch them genuinely appreciate the life you have. Watch them respect you anew, no longer out of any obligation, but from a place of genuine admiration. Action 4. Define and uphold boundaries. One of the most common reasons respect between parents and children can become eroded is due to boundaries being neglected or completely erased. As we cherish our children, it's all too easy to let them cross lines that we wouldn't normally allow others to, and sometimes things we wouldn't let them do in their younger years. These blurred lines can often be traced back to our willingness to maintain harmonious relationships with our children as we age. However, as benign as the intention might be, the result is often damaging to both parties involved. Imagine this. You've had a long day and you're involved in deep conversation, pouring your thoughts into a sincere discussion, only to be interrupted with a dismissive wave and a change of subject. Or you're spending time with your children and they nonchalantly disregard your suggestions about something they're doing. Speaking over you, they treat your ideas as if your time, effort, and vast life experience don't matter. As much as it stings, you allow it, for the sake of peace, for the love you have for them. This is a dangerous trend. By tolerating their disrespect, you are indirectly teaching them that this behavior towards you is acceptable. Even worse, the respect they previously held for you gradually starts to dilute. Not because they've become uncaring or callous, but simply because familiarity breeds contempt. Not setting and maintaining boundaries with your children does not imply ill intentions from their side. It simply means that people, especially our beloved children, will treat us on the terms that we allow and present to them. Sometimes, out of sheer love for them or the fear of losing them, we unknowingly allow them to cross lines. Robert was a celebrated businessman, admired by his colleagues for his discipline and self-assured demeanor. His business acumen and the respect he demanded effortlessly in boardrooms was something his peers envied. However, when it came to his relationship with his adult children, he often found himself in a sea of contradictions. They interrupted his conversations, disregarded his advice, and criticized his life choices, leaving Robert questioning his self-worth. For a long time, he tolerated it, assuming every storm would pass and things would return to normal. But they didn't. Years later, instead, he realized that each time he allowed them to cross a line, he inadvertently taught them that it was indeed okay for them to do so. One day, fueled by his years of administrative experience, he began to reshape his interactions with his children. When his son interrupted him mid-sentence, he calmly stated his stance, letting him know he will only continue to speak when his son was ready to listen. When his daughter refused to acknowledge his take on matters, he responded with a quiet yet strong assertion, "You don't have to agree with me, but I expect you to respect my opinion." The biggest modification in his approach was his resolve. He made it clear, if they couldn't respect him during their interaction, he wouldn't force his company on them. His newfound stance surprised them initially, but over time, they began to see Robert for the confident, self-respecting man he had always been in his professional life. When we set our own boundaries, we command respect. When we allow ourselves and our valued wisdom to be trodden upon, we teach others to ignore it. You must remember, your self-worth doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth, especially in cases when you've allowed them to undermine you. Uphold your boundaries and respect will follow. Action 5. Limit unreciprocated giving. One of the quickest paths to losing respect in any relationship is to continually give to those who fail to appreciate or acknowledge your efforts. As parents, it is innate to want to provide for our children, to support them in every way possible. However, when this generosity goes unnoticed, taken for granted, or worse, expected, the dynamics within the relationship can swiftly shift. Picture George, a father who poured his heart and soul into helping his children. Whenever they needed financial assistance, emotional support, or simply someone to lean on, he was there. He dropped everything to come to their aid, regardless of personal sacrifices. But instead of expressions of gratitude, his children seemed to view his assistance as a given, never bothering to say a simple thank you. When George finally needed their help, they were nowhere to be found, too preoccupied with their own lives. Feeling unappreciated and undervalued, George recognized the need to make a change. Instead of constantly extending himself and offering help before being asked, he began to set boundaries. He started to say no when necessary and refrained from overextending himself. Initially, his children were puzzled by his new demeanor. They couldn't comprehend why he was no longer bending over backward for them. However, over time, they began to appreciate his time and efforts more. They realized that his generosity was a gift, deserving of acknowledgement and gratitude. It's vital to assess your patterns of giving and ensure that they align with healthy boundaries. Ask yourself, are you giving more than you should? What if you were to stop? By establishing the notion that your generosity is not a given, but an appreciated gesture, you invite respect back into the relationship. When others realize that your kindness is not boundless and should be reciprocated, it gains a newfound value that fosters mutual respect. George's transformation serves as a poignant reminder that setting limits on unreciprocated giving can be a gateway to restoring respect within relationships. When we learn to value our own contributions and recognize that they deserve acknowledgement, others are more likely to follow suit. By consciously choosing to give only where it is acknowledged and appreciated, we cultivate an environment of mutual respect and understanding. Remember, it's not about withholding your support or love, but rather recognizing the importance of reciprocation and appreciation within any relationship. By setting boundaries around your giving and valuing your own worth, you pave the way for others to value and respect you in return. Action 6. Cultivate a vibrant life beyond family. One of the most powerful steps towards earning your children's respect could be as simple as demonstrating that your world doesn't pivot around them. Remember the old saying, "Don't put all your eggs in one basket." It applies to emotional investments too. If we pour all our happiness into one single relationship, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment and resentment, leading us astray from the path of respect. Imagine you're leading a fulfilling life independent of your children. You invest quality time and energy in fostering friendships, pursuing hobbies, and exploring places you've always wanted to visit. You read, paint, cycle, volunteer, or embark on solo trips. Anything that ignites the passion for living within you. Your children watch your life unfolding beautifully beyond the confines of family routines. Such a colorful picture, isn't it? This vision of independence portrays strength and contentment, inviting genuine respect and admiration. Let's examine Eleanor's journey. After losing her husband, she found herself pouring all her time and energy into her children's lives, looking to them to step into that vast emotional space her husband once filled. But her attempts to draw closer pushed them away. Their interactions became strained, and Eleanor felt lonelier than ever. Recognizing the need for change, Eleanor made an inspiring switch. She slipped into dancing shoes, joined a book club, and regularly set off on a new adventure with her friends. She volunteered at her local community center, bringing her joy, satisfaction, and a vibrant social circle. Shifting her focus away from her children and building a fuller life for herself proved to be revolutionary. The result was awe-inspiring. Her children began to see Eleanor in a new light. The woman they once saw as dependent on their time and attention was now leading an exciting life of her own. Intrigued and inspired by her abundance of zest, they started seeking her company more often. They admired her strength and found her independence profoundly appealing. The respect that had been gradually slipping away rekindled, and just like that, Eleanor found herself restored to her position of honor and regard. Building a rich life beyond your children is an incredible transformation that brings your relationship with them into healthier balance. Diversifying the sources of your joy and investing in your well-being can redefine and reinforce their perception of you as a robust, independent individual with a full, meaningful life of her own. The power that comes from having a flavorful variety in life is immense. The key to winning back your children's respect isn't through confrontation. It's inspired through your conduct, boundaries, and independence. By cultivating self-assurance and living a fulfilling life, you breathe respect back into the relationship, not because you demand it, but because it naturally arises. Before you leave, share your perspective or a lesson learned today in the comments. Your insights inspire others on a similar journey, and they help us continue creating meaningful content. Like, subscribe, and activate the bell icon to stay connected with our community, a place where respect and wisdom flourish. Thank you for being here with us today, and may the respect you deserve flourish anew.